Hi there, this is Bob Camel, aka Desert Bob. I will eventually get around to doing a bit more than just chatting, but I figured in the meantime, I'd take this opportunity so that you can all get to know me, and hopefully, I'll eventually get to know some of you. I decided to do this at the behest of my daughter. She wants me to be a part of the greater YouTube community, and thus she too can be a part of the community vicariously through me. And I was like, what do I really have to say? What can I talk about that hasn't already been covered dozens or millions of times by everybody else that's out there on YouTube? And I don't think I'm going to try to compete. The only thing that I can really offer is my own personal views, my own personal experiences, and maybe some of you out there have got the same viewpoints, similar interests. Maybe you can run some things off of me. We can actually start a dialogue. Who knows where this will go? I realize this is not the most flattering view. Unfortunately, I don't have a very good tripod right now. I don't have the best lighting. I'm not actually at home right now. This background here, this is not my home. I'm currently in a hotel for job training for a job that I never personally thought I was going to actually have. I'm not going to get into any details as to what this job actually is. I have learned from seeing other people's examples, and also the paperwork that came with the starting package on this job, that to mention where I work could be career suicide. I'm not going anywhere in that direction. Suffice to say, the job takes place outdoors, has a fairly insane number of hours in the greater scheme of things. Won't be home quite as much as I'd care to. But it pays the bills, and or almost pays the bills. In any event, it's money. It's something to do. We'll move on. I am 38. I will be 39 here, actually, very shortly. And most of the time, I don't feel like an adult. Hell, you can ask my kids. I'm pretty childish in most regards. I spend most of my time playing video games, messing around on the computer. Fun stuff is what I'm primarily. I'm kind of a pop culture junkie. I'm not the guy who you call when, oh, something's broken down, can you come help me fix my car? That's not me. Oh, I need help rebuilding this fence. That's not me either. Now, it's not to say that I am completely skillless in those regards, but I'm not the first guy you call. Now, if your computer is broken down, odds are I can have you fixed up in 5 minutes, because most problems are pretty simple. But even the complex ones, I like a good challenge, and I kind of understand it, and that's fine. But I consider myself to have a pretty good work moral for the most part. Once I start a job, I don't miss days. I don't call in sick. I don't have one excuse or another for being late. I work my scheduled hours. I do what I'm supposed to do. I get the job done, and I go home. Difference is I go out of my way not to make my job my life. I don't... When I go home at night, I want to go home. I want to forget that my job even exists. I go home, and I go about, and I do what I enjoy. I don't spend time dwelling on work most of the time. And I'm not exactly what you call a goal-oriented person most of the time. Generally, I'm up for the short thrill. I get up in the morning and I throw on YouTube or Netflix or a movie, and I just I chill out. I have fun. I might read. I might play some games with the kids or play some games by myself. But I'm usually looking at relatively meaningless ways of entertaining myself. I don't have I'm not going to put a new coat of paint on the deck. I'm not going to, I don't look for non-fun things to do when I am not getting paid. Much to the chagrin of the family many times, but now, okay. So we've got established that entertainment is where my interests really lie. So, now that having been said, when it comes to movies, I am not. One of my favorite things that I look at on YouTube and on the internet in general, one of my favorite things to pass the time is I absolutely love critic sites. Critic sites like that guy with the glasses.com, some of the critics on The Escapist, Red Letter Media. I get a kick out of watching these guys go through and completely tear apart a movie. And a lot of times the movies that they're tearing apart are movies that I love, but I get such a kick out of seeing the angles that they look at with these movies and all of the things that they find wrong with them and the things that don't add up. And the funny part about that is, while a lot of times I will agree with them on the individual things that they are picking apart, many times I do agree that these are genuinely bad movies, but I'm actually not that big into the camp of all movies must meet this certain standard or else they're crap. That's not me. I enjoy quite a few of the movies that people like to pick apart. I actually enjoyed all three of the Star Wars prequels. No, they're not perfect movies, but I enjoyed each one of them for certain reasons. Basically, I just went along for the ride in a lot of regards, but I didn't hate them. I loved Armageddon, Independence Day. There are. I just watched Oblivion, a movie that got very tepid response for the most part. I thought it was great. In fact, I really didn't find that much to pick apart on the movie. The pacing might have been a little bit faster, but then when you've got kind of a panoramic look about things, and they actually give you something pretty to look at, and oftentimes some headier ideas to kind of let sink in. You're trying to set a tableau. A slower pacing generally doesn't bother me if the world is interesting. 2001: A Space Odyssey, one of the slowest moving movies ever made. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Loved it, 100%. I had very little to fault with that movie, even though it was so slow. But there was an isolated feeling to the movie. The idea is that you're supposed to kind of feel the characters feeling that they are alone, that there is a vast expanse out there around them, and a slower pace where everything moves quieter and you don't see what's going on. Great way to set that up. The same thing worked extraordinarily well for Moon. If you've never seen that, definitely owe it to yourself to see that movie. Excellent film. But I would say probably a good maybe 80 to 90% of the movies that a lot of critics just completely tear to shreds, I either don't mind or genuinely enjoy. And many times it comes down to how I first saw the movie. If I saw the movie in a theater, 9 times out of 10, I will like the movie. Probably even higher than that. And I think part of it is that, especially with movie tickets getting as expensive as they are, if I'm going to spend, say $12 for the ticket alone to go in and see the movie, I'm going to look for a reason that I spent the money to see the movie. I want to see that I got my money's worth, and so I genuinely will try to stay very optimistic and try and ride it till the wheels come off, as the saying goes. Now there have been exceptions. In all the times that I've ever gone to the movies, there were only 2 movies that I almost walked out on. I didn't actually. I've never walked out on a movie, but there are 2 that I came extraordinarily close to just walking out on. The first one was Batman and Robin. I saw all of the Batman movies in the theaters up to that point, and I enjoyed all of them. In fact, I even liked Batman Forever, which is another movie that tends to get panned quite a bit. I actually saw that one at the theater 3 times with different groups and whatnot, and I enjoyed it each time I saw it. Yes, Jim Carrey is way over the top. That was actually a big part of what I liked about it. The neon and a lot of the aesthetics of the movie are just really bizarre, but overall that didn't bother me too bad. I even liked Chris O'Donnell as Robin, and I thought that Val Kilmer wasn't the best Batman. I would say that of the 3 pre-Christopher Nolan Batman movies, the three men that played Batman in those, of the 3, Val Kilmer was the weakest Batman, but he was the best Bruce Wayne. I felt that he actually kind of nailed Bruce Wayne. As goofy as the movie was, I felt that it all came together well. Jim Carrey was a really big part of that. He gave a lot of energy to the movie that I think probably would have been kind of lacking had they had somebody else in there. The only real problem that I had with that film was Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face. And I don't think that's really Tommy Lee's fault. Joel Schumacher didn't really seem to know exactly what to do with Two-Face, and I don't think that Tommy Lee was given much in the way of direction. So he just played it to the nines. Unfortunately, playing it to the nines doesn't really work for that character. But in any event, yeah, they took what is probably one of Batman's more interesting villains outside of maybe the Joker, and they made him into a one-note gangster. That was his whole fucking character, and yeah, didn't quite come across the right way. But beside that, the rest of the movie didn't really have too much of a problem with. So I knew going into Batman and Robin that there was going to be a certain level of silliness, and that was fine. I was prepared for that. I knew that the set pieces were going to be kind of campy, kind of along the lines of the 60s Batman series, which at that point I really wasn't much of a fan of. I think I can appreciate it more now, but at that time, really not a fan. I was a pretty serious comic book fan at the time, and I had a very specific way that I saw Batman, and the old 60s series ruined Batman for a good many years. And I thought that George Clooney as Batman, that was the part that had me the most excited. I had just come off of a high of watching him, and I'd watched him in From Dusk Till Dawn. And that was the first time where George Clooney really clicked in my head. I wasn't really much of a Clooney fan at that time. And then I saw From Dusk Till Dawn, and I got to see him play, for all intents and purposes, a complete badass. He had attitude. He just had a don't fuck with me type of attitude, and he really played that off extraordinarily well. He pulled it off with complete gusto, and so it's like, okay, here we go. Here's a guy who can play Batman. He can play him serious. He can give him an edge. I was really looking forward to that. So I went and saw Batman and Robin at the theater, and oh my god, I didn't even make it 5 minutes in the movie where I was like, what the hell have they done? It went from being kind of a fantasy in the Tim Burton movies, and then it went to being, pretty campy in the second one, but a little bit of a sardonic wit about it. And then here we go, and they've turned it into a complete freaking cartoon. You've got securities guards. Their heads make little empty coconut sounds when they hit the railing. You've got bad guys going around on ice skates and throwing around chucking around this diamond with hockey sticks, and just these really bad puns that are going on, and Batman and Robin going all over the place, completely throwing the physics book completely out of the freaking window. Horrible wire work, horrible stunts, neon everywhere in the wrong places, and just the whole thing was just, what the hell did they do to this franchise? And I'd gone with my wife, my soon-to-be wife, at the theater to see this, and I could tell she was ready to walk in any minute, and I'd never walked out on a movie before, and finally I was like, you know what, okay, and I'm just getting ready to leave, and all of a sudden the movie starts getting, I don't know, not good, but passable. They slow things down. They have this stretch at Wayne Manor, and Batman's actually kind of sort of doing a little bit of actual detective work, and people are starting to act in character again, and I was like, oh, okay, so now we're gonna take it seriously. The movie's finally gonna work, and then the bastards pulled the freaking rug out from me again, and it went right back to the same crap. By this point, we're already halfway through the movie. I'm like, maybe the movie will get good again. Let's just see what happens. And of course, you all know the story. It never does get better again. In fact, it gets continually worse and worse and worse and worse, and then it just blissfully ends. The Batman and Robin and Batgirl go running their bat nipples into the screen, and it's over, and you breathe a sigh of relief, and you go on, and you curse the time that you've lost this movie, that you'll never, ever, ever get back again, and you do everything you can to just forget that it ever happened. That was movie number one. The first movie that I almost walked out on. The second movie, not too much longer after that one, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Another one where I went in with, I didn't exactly say I went in with high hopes per se, but I had enjoyed the first movie. I thought, especially given the string of video game movies up to that point, that they actually done a pretty good job with Mortal Kombat. The people involved seem to understand, pretty much what you need to do to make a Mortal Kombat movie work, especially being as they were aiming at a PG-13. Really, truly, if there's any major fault with the first movie, it was exactly that they went for a PG-13 on something that I think would have been better served with an R. Not that it's really... yes, story-wise, you are aiming at a teenage audience, and of course, part of the reason why Mortal Kombat was so famous, or infamous, or the reason why it had notoriety was that it was gore in a genre that was known, that at the time was considered a genre for kids. Video games, it's a kid's hobby, it's a plaything, it's a toy. Never mind the fact that at the time that movie was made, I think the median age for video game players was 21, 22. But okay, given that they went for a PG-13, I think they did pretty good, and they really spent some money in it. They put in some pretty good special effects. They even had some CGI, which at that time CGI was very, very expensive, somewhat in its infancy as far as its application to film, so okay. And then the second one came along, and this is pre-internet. Well, I should say pre-wide internet days, where most of the time you got your entertainment news through more mainstream. So you had magazines, television, things of that nature. There really wasn't, okay, well, I'm going to follow this guy's Twitter, I'm going to check out the Facebook page, I'm going to go to their website and study all the other things there before. I'll go to Wikipedia and find out. You didn't have all of that. Generally, what you knew about a movie, going in, is what you read in a movie magazine, or what you might call it, in this case, in a video game magazine, or maybe they had an HBO First Look. That was about the best that you could expect. So I didn't realize going in that it was practically nobody who was involved with the first movie who made this one. As far as the main cast went, the only person left was Liu Kang. Which is fine. Robin Shou was good. He was okay for the character. The problem was they replaced everybody in the cast, and that was just the ones who returned. Ultimately, they just threw plot completely out the window, and they made an hour and a half. It might have even been shorter than an hour and a half. It seemed that movie was very short, despite the fact that it felt very long, because they never take a breather to actually bother with the story. All it is one fight after another, after another, after another, after another, and they just keep throwing in characters who exist only for a fight, and then they disappear. And by the time you get to the end of it, one, the CGI is actually worse than the first movie, which, we're talking mid-90s, and there was 2 years in between there. There was no reason the CGI should have actually gotten worse in those 2 years. If you see what they had done with CGI in the movies up to that point, it should have, even if it didn't, go a huge leap, it still should have at least been a little better, and instead it actually took a step back. All the characters that were there were out of character, or they were a caricature of what they should have been, which is pretty impressive considering that, for the most part, Mortal Kombat characters are caricatures. They're based on martial arts cliches, for the most part, and the fact that they actually made the characters even more lifeless and meaningless than they are in the video games themselves is a very impressive feat. And the movie is just pretty much pure chaos, beginning to end. No forward mobility at all. Let's fight, and that's all people want to see. They just want to see a fight. They don't care about context or characters or where this is going. Complete mess of a movie. So yeah, I almost walked out on that one, and I'm not really sure why I didn't walk out there. There really wasn't anything that actually kept me in my seat, except I think that one was on a double feature. I don't remember what the other movie was I went to see at the theater at that time, but I went ahead and hung in because I wanted to see the other movies. The only thing I can figure. So anyway, that's the only two movies that I even came close to walking out on. My point of view is, if I spend the money, then I'm going to try and hold out and find a reason why I spent that money. And so there's, like I said, there's a lot of movies that, and I can see the flaws in a lot of these. But overall, I find myself entertained, and I actually will go back to see a lot of these movies that everybody just universally hates. And that's probably something that I will be addressing on here as individual movies, and why I don't think that they're the disaster that everybody wants to make them out to be.